Dickinson County On April 26th this year, I approved a Freedom of Information Act request on the Controller's Office for her written evaluation done by the Board of Commissioners. On that night was a finance meeting, and I was contacted by several people about statements that were made that night during that meeting. I have since obtained a second Freedom of Information Act request and have copies of that meeting, the statements that were made at that time. What I heard was very disturbing to me about the conduct of this board. For almost 8 minutes, this board went on and on about how not to give up information, why it shouldn't have to be given up. There seems to be a complete lack of knowledge at times about what is required under FOIA and what's not. The county clerk even said, the FOIA Coordinator said, there is an Attorney General opinion stating that you had to give the information out. It was even confirmed with your attorney, the prosecutor, said yes, it had to be given up. After that was said, Commissioner Martin made statements saying, I want mine back. It's mine, I wrote it, I didn't give it to anybody, I want it back. I was told I can't do that, and got kind of a testy ashamed out here about wanting it back. Again, this is the words that are on the recording, not mine. After some discussion back and forth, Chairman Wender even says, well, at the end, well, it's her decision, what she does. After that discussion is done, Commissioner Martin and Controller Pugh leave that meeting for no stated reason on the recording. I have witnesses to that. And went across the hall with those documents I requested with that for about 5 minutes. They returned. All I know is Commissioner Martin had a clipboard with paper on it. I don't know what was on that. I can't say if it was altered, taken, or not at that time. But it seemed very inappropriate and suspicious being at the conversations that took place ahead of that time. Shortly after that, it's discussed in great length also in that about how do they know this, how do we do this, what do we do with it. Again, I did this as a citizen. I didn't do this as a union member, I didn't do this as an employee, this was done on my time. This was done as a citizen to this board. So this board's reaction was to send my Freedom of Information Act request to your waiver attorney. Even after your own attorney said you had to give it up. I don't understand why you're wasting hundreds of dollars. A labor attorney in Marquette costs hundreds of dollars an hour. I don't understand why this board would send Freedom of Information Act request to your waiver attorney, wasting citizens' dollars like that. To me, it made no sense. There were also threats made in this recording to the unions. The unions had nothing to do with that. That was me as an individual. It kept going, why are the unions doing this? What are they after? The statement is made by the chairman. This is like throwing a dagger at the board. Agreed upon by Chairman, or by Commissioner Martin. This is really a way to torpedo amicable relations with the unions. But 5 minutes earlier, in the same recording, you discussed a letter that the union had sent to you just to meet with me and talk with you. Not to negotiate. Sit down and go over problems, maybe anything they can do to help. Not asking for anything. But again, the response to this board was, let's send it to our labor attorney in Marquette. Again, hundreds of dollars an hour. Send it to a labor attorney instead of just making the decision yourself, saying, do we wish to address this or not? Do we sit down and listen to what people have to say? But again, when times are tight, we're sending this to a labor attorney. I feel it was a complete waste of time. 12 days after I submitted my Freedom of Information Act request, I received the documents I requested from Control 2. Did you access it at that time? Yes, I understand. Well, it's going on. I have no faith that those documents are legitimate. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. I don't know. So I contacted the Attorney General's office, started an investigation into my Freedom of Information Act request. I was advised by them today that they are going to start the open investigation, and I can expect contact in the next 2 to 3 weeks on it. It's a shame that it has to get to that point, that we're at this point, that I feel this board is wasting money instead of being transparent. We're in a day and age where people are watching where money is spent. Transparency is important. Maybe the documents I received are legit, maybe they're not, I don't know, but we're going to find out. But my question to the board is, if you're transparent, why are you sending everything to labor attorneys without making decisions on your own, wasting taxpayer dollars on topics that had nothing to do with union contracts and unions? And I wish you'd take that into consideration in the future. Thank you.
we'll move forward on the agenda, finance chair items. I reviewed the budget status report. We are 33% through the year, and the majority of accounts are within budget at this point of the year. Certain accounts are more, it should be 33%, but for example, elections is 66%, but many of those costs are reimbursed by the state. That's an example of, accounts that are over, but again, another account, computers and copiers, is at 43% instead of 33%, but a large purchase of copy paper was made at a good price, and that accounts for that overage. Other than that, there are other accounts that are over, but they're all for reasons that have been identified. The one consistent overage, as I looked through all of the accounts, was the telephone expense to the county, and that is in many departments. Register of deed, rather than 33%, is 131%. The treasurer's office, 64%. The Board of Commissioners, 76%. District Court, these are all telephone charges. AT&T prices skyrocketed. As of this coming Wednesday, the new telephone system will be in operation, and we expect that those costs are going to be recovered. So there will be a budget amendment on the agenda for Monday night's meeting. And next month, we're also going to start reporting on a monthly basis the cost of salary per month and the cost of insurance per month, both for active employees and retired employees, just so that citizens will have a clear picture of where tax dollars go. Do you have any questions?
No, cool.
Okay. Now there's an item, friend of the court budget request.
The friend of the court advertising line item was only allocated and approved for $150. The friend of the court's office is statutorily required to put the friend of the court annual statutory review in the newspaper 2 times every year. The cost for the ad this year is $80.25 for each day, for a total of $160.50. The ad ran on May 12th and will run again on June 9th. I had to put an ad in the Daily News for part-time investigator department assistant opening in my office, as Ms. Oaks, who previously held this position, has taken a full-time position with another employer. To run the ad for 3 days, it was $154.18. The increase that I'm requesting in my friend of the court advertising line is $164.68, which is the difference between what I have in that line item and the actual expense I have. My proposed resolution and explanation to cover the cost is to increase the fund by the $164.68. Once billings are completed on this expense, Dickinson County will receive 66% reimbursement from the state of Michigan in the amount of $108.69. That will leave a balance of $55.99 to be covered. This year, in only one area of pre-collections, I've collected $12,837.70 for January through April. For the same period last year, I collected $11,584.69. This is an increase of approximately 10%, or $1,253.01. Therefore, given as well as my office performed last year, my collections are up even more this year, and for this area, this is only one area of my office operations. The difference of what I've collected so far this year for the county in just one small area of fees, minus what I would need to cover the remaining $55.99 that I'm requesting, still leaves increased revenue in the amount of $1,197.02. So so the county is still earning revenue from its services in this one small area of operation. My second request is that my office supplies in line item number 215-141-727-000 be increased to $2,500 as originally requested, and that my postage in line item number 215-141-728-000 be increased to $4,500 as originally requested. These amounts are the same amounts requested for 2015. I am providing a brief background of information relevant to my request. Last year I submitted an amended CRP contract that reflected a large reduction in my budget in the amount of $24,328 for 2016 as compared to the budget for 2015. After the amended CRP was approved and signed off on, the second of 3 newspaper articles was published in the Daily News. A portion of that article states as follows: there are also increasing costs associated with public safety and corrections, the courts, criminal prosecution, indigent defense, juvenile detention, and child support and visitation. These are expenses beyond the control of local county government. The portion pertaining to my office was not accurate at all. Upon seeing the article, I immediately contacted the Controller's office as to where the information came from. I was informed by Controller Q that Commissioner Martin authored the article. I then attended the next county board meeting and clarified that the information pertaining to my office was inaccurate and that it did not come from my office. On February 3rd, 2016, I received a memorandum and budget sheet from my office from the Controller. The memorandum reflects cuts in line items that were never discussed with me, nor was I ever notified of these cuts prior to February 3rd, 2016. While I understand that there were substantial cuts throughout the county, I feel that recent cuts to my office were unfair given the prior reduction in my budget of over $24,000 for 2016 that I had provided to the county several months earlier. Additionally, 2 specific line items, office supplies and postage, were reduced to amounts less than what I spent in 2015. The justification I was given for the reduction from the $2,500 to the $2,000 for 2016 was because I only spent $2,094.93. This amount was the report Controller Q provided dated January 6, 2016. However, that report was inaccurate. My office supplies under that line item in 2015 were absolutely not what was reported and were in fact $2,635.71. Originally, it was my understanding that some of my December 2015 expenses were paid in January 2016, but taken out of my 2015 budget because it was end of the year. This would not necessarily be out of the ordinary for year-end expenses. However, I noticed discrepancies between my figures and Controller Q's figures, and that it appeared that expenses were actually taken out of my 2016 budget for expenses that were incurred and submitted in 2015. In the process of researching the discrepancies, I found that there were deductions on 12/31/15 in the amount of $518.65 for expenses and office supplies, but nothing was paid. Upon further investigation, I discovered that those same deductions were recorded December 31st were also deducted on January 21st, 2016, and this time payment appears to have been made. Again, these expenses from the 2015 were properly submitted before the end of the year, but were paid out of my 2016 budget. Additionally, 3 other small expenses for 2015 were deducted out of my 2016 budget in January. The transaction history listing report from the treasurer reflects that I had office supply expenses in January 2016 in the amount of $540.78. I had no expenses in this line item in January 2016. 0. This line item that was cut to $2,000 for 2016 was then reduced again by deducting some of my 2015 expenses, putting me at a starting amount of only $1,459.22. So not only was that line item cut to $2,000, it was also reduced again by 27% when I factually had no expenses for January 2016. So while these dollar amounts may seem minimal, the budget reduction and other deductions amount to this line item loss of approximately 42% for this year before I actually spent anything. Please consider the following. First, relevance of this information. This material information most likely influenced the decisions relevant to the budget cuts for my office. Secondly, reliability of the information. This information is material in nature because its omission and misstatement most likely influenced the decisions in the budget cuts that I received. Third, completeness of this information. The information contained in the financial reports provided to the county board must be complete in all material respects in order for it to present a true and fair view of my actual expenses for 2015. Controller Q's report did not reflect any of these things. The budget that was approved for this line item last year was $2,500. So why am I paying for 2015 expenses that could have been covered in that budget out of this year's reduced budget? And where did the remaining money allocated to my office for 2015 go? Because my office clearly did not receive it. As department head, it is my understanding that when I submit a bill for 2015, it is to come out of my 2015 budget. It is also my understanding that books are left open for a short period of time in January each year for revenues or expenses that are delayed. Although I did not need to take advantage of that delay this year, as all my expenses were properly turned in before the end of the year. I would like to note that Treasurer Lorna Carey sent a memo out last year to January 5th, 2015, regarding 2014 revenues and expenses. That memo in part stated, "Please be advised that the county clerk's office will be accepting check requests to be paid from the 2014 budget until January 30th, 2015. The report that Controller Q provided was dated January 6th, 2016. If the books are kept open until the end of January, in fairness and accuracy, can a decision on any department's budget be properly assessed without all final revenues and expenses taken into consideration?" My postage was also reduced this year. I have an issue with how these expenses are handled. As a reminder, I received 66% back from the state of Michigan for my expenses. Why was there only $24.80 billed in January for my postage and absolutely nothing in February this year? We have hundreds of letters that go out every week with those numbers, and those numbers are clearly wrong. If I spend it in January or February, it should be billed in those months for proper accounting purposes. Plus, the county will get back 66% reimbursement. Instead, nothing is billed, and therefore no state reimbursement is received. The proposed resolution and explanation is in two parts tonight. First, I'm requesting that my office supplies in line item number 215-141-727-000 be increased to $2,500 as originally requested, and that my postage in line item number 215-141-728-000 be increased to $4,500 as originally requested, with the state reimbursing 66% of these expenses and the additional revenue I've collected already this year in the same area I referred to earlier. It would more than cover the additional $500 for office supplies and $500 for postage, and still leave the county with an additional revenue from my office in one small area. Secondly, that all January 2016 expenses under line item 215-141-727-000 be reversed and my 2015 expenses be adjusted to accurately reflect said expenses. The state of Michigan will require a letter detailing these adjustments. My third request is that Commissioner Ann Martin abstain from voting on any issue pertaining to the friend of the court's office. I want to make the board aware that I believe there is a conflict of interest with Commissioner Martin. I believe that any decision by Commissioner Martin would be adversarial in nature. Commissioner Martin interjected herself in a court matter by way of a letter to the circuit court judges that, among other things, disparaged me and was an attempt to threaten my employment. Commissioner Martin dispersed this letter to members of the community as well as the judges. The judges did respond and addressed her actions. It is my belief that Commissioner Martin's actions were an egregious abuse of power, and I believe that she will not be able to give a fair assessment or vote on any issue or request from my office. To be a good leader, you have to be able to listen to concerns with an open mind. You have to be able to communicate in good faith with honesty and integrity. As department head, I do not feel that Commissioner Martin will fairly address any issue or concern that pertain to my office. My proposed resolution is that I am respectfully requesting Commissioner Ann Martin abstain from voting on any issue pertaining to the friend of the court's office. While my statements here tonight may sound harsh, I want to be very clear that I care about Dickinson County, my fellow employees who are here tonight, my staff, and my clients. I appreciate your time.
I'd like to request a copy of your remarks. That was a lot to take in when you went through all of the figures.
A copy's been provided to the clerk.
Yes, maybe for us commissioners so that we could review that. That was a lot of figures to take in.
I would probably like to follow up and say, everything that I mentioned tonight, I have supporting documentation, and I'm more than happy to sit down with you and go over it.
I'm sure you do. I also want to say that you speak as though it was our purposeful intention to hamper the operation of your office, and that could not be further from the truth. There was no intention. We want you to have the funds needed to operate your office, for sure.
In response to that, with all due respect, when you see the reports that I received from the treasurer's office, you may have a different opinion. A request was made for the transitionary history report on my office supply line items. There was no response. After 2 days, I had to request Honorable Mary B. Bartland to get the report for me. I then had to make not one, not two, but 3 requests to be on the agenda tonight. So if you would like to discuss that further at any time in the future, I would be more than happy to do so. Thank you.
I will call on Controller Hugh to respond as she can, but I think...
I have that in writing also.
Thank you. I think with all this information, it would be difficult to do so, but if you would like to add some remarks, that would certainly be fine.
I wouldn't mind adding remarks. First of all, as Commissioner Martin said, there was no effort to hamper the work in your office or anything like that. I think, Heidi, you know that I've always been very complimentary about the way you handle your budget and how you keep an eye on things. The reason you had to ask 3 times is because you wouldn't respond. So, I don't know why, but anyway. The reports that you're talking about and the numbers that you're talking about are from computer printouts. Those are actual printouts from the general ledger. Those are not put together by any person. Those are from our software. The reason the amount is different from the first one, January 6th, than it is from the one later in the month is because of the accruals that Dan does. I don't know why he paid bills or why he accrued certain bills. I don't even see those bills. So you have to talk to him about that. What was
I
paid
don't
in
have to, I
January.
believe, with all due respect, I know how to read those reports. And you deducted not once, but twice, the same dollar amounts. And you took out of my 2016 budget, 2015 expenses. I have everything right here.
But that, it comes out when the bills are paid. I don't even see the bills when they're paid. Those are paid by the finance clerk. So when you're saying you
So-
I have no way of taking anything out of there. Whatever bills you turned in were paid. I don't think you have a really good understanding of how the accounting works. I'd be happy to explain it to
With
you.
all due respect, I believe I have a very good understanding how the accounting works. And I have every one of these reports here. I have had an accountant go over them, I have had the judge go over them, and I have gone over them. And I have a very good understanding how these accounting
Okay,
are
well, there's
used.
no big conspiracy, so if you
No,
want to talk about it.
there's probably not a big conspiracy.
Okay.
But in fairness, whether it is $1 off or $5,000 off, the people of this community deserve to have things balanced. And when I submit to you a 2015 budget, and I have $2,500 to use, and you don't use it, where's the rest of my money? And you took it out of my 2016 budget? That is not fair.
Can you shed any light on this, Dolly, since your office pays the bills? I'd have to.
Okay, I think we'll move on. I think that
I
I'd
don't know how
like
to
to
explain
again,
it, believe me.
no, and I hope that you can get together and
I think you
work
need to
this
talk to
out,
Dan about how those bills were paid.
perhaps,
Because,
to work through a resolution to this matter, but I would appreciate it.
Wow,
I have no control over that.
I'm astonished.
I'm not the only one tonight.
I have got all of these reports. And again, I would welcome to sit down with any one of the commissioners and go over this. And to place a finger blame on Dan, I'm ashamed of you.
Nobody's blaming Dan. It's just that Dan pays the bills. That's where you have to start in order to track back why they got billed and paid in 16 and not
I'm
in
going to
15.
sit down because I don't accept your explanation any longer.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Thank you very
You're
much.
very welcome.
And we will take this request and study it, and yes, and again, a complete copy of the remarks so that we can understand all of it. Just seeing this letter for the first time tonight, so it's a lot to take in. Okay, is there any other business before the final item? Sure, go ahead.
As chief board, and finally as FOIA coordinator. Due to lack of confidence in the FOIA request on evaluation, I resigned immediately as your FOIA coordinator. The financial consequences and the liability are too great to play around with, and I feel this is exactly what we did with this request. As the FOIA coordinator, it was my opinion to give the evaluation and Lisa concurred, and you were given the Attorney General's opinion, which is attached. Again, number 6668, but you still gave it to an employee relations lawyer, which cost $220 to $280 an hour. As the coordinator, I am the only one that can deny a request. My question to you is this. What if the lawyer said we could not give it, and I said we could? Obviously, the lawyer said we have to give the information, and we do not have the information. The fines are very big now, and the attorney fees have no limit, and I cannot be responsible when you will not let me do my job. I will be the FOIA coordinator for my offices, county clerk, registered deed only. You will have to appoint someone for each office, and if there is no one, the chairman will have to be appointed. And I suggest that that person get some training, because after 26 years of constant training every year, I still have questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other business before the board? Okay, citizens' time again?
Here, take some of that. I'm going to discuss a little bit about what Heidi just talked about. I was notified and given copies of letters that she discussed, not from the friend of the court's office, not from the sheriff's office, not locally, but from out of state actually. I have these letters and I've gone over them. I don't begrudge Commissioner Martin for being concerned about a family member in a case. I think all of us would be on that. What I am concerned about is the method that Commissioner Martin went about doing it. Clearly, it stepped over the line on it. There were some vicious attacks in the letter. I tore off the letter. I deeply question the judgment and actions of the friend of the court, Heidi Van Slooten. It seems that Ms. Van Slooten has consistently ignored very real threats to these children. Ms. Van Slooten cannot be permitted to side with one party and ignore the real concerns of the other party as she has done in this case and perhaps others. I believe her appointment as friend of the court must be reevaluated. And this was sent to all the judges, Representative Boone's office, and the sheriff. I don't know why it was sent to them, but it was. The response to this letter by the judges was swift and very pointed. A portion of that states, and all three judges signed this, we question the propriety of a sitting county commissioner interjecting herself in a pending case. In our opinion, the letter was not only improper as an ex parte communication about a pending case, it also has the appearance of impropriety given the fact you are a county commissioner who sets the budget for the court, including the friend of the court office. And I think we just heard about the friend of the court office budget. So, I mean, I'm not involved in that part of it, but it's very disturbing to me when I hear that. So it was clear that there was a beef taking place because of the case, questioning her ability to do her job and all that stuff. But yet, less than 2 months later, this board had this resolution, 2016-5, honoring the friend of the court office for being the top one in the Upper Peninsula and number 11 in the entire state for doing her job. And this wasn't the first time she was recognized by this board. In February of 2014, February 14th of 2011, the board also gave her accolades for how well she does her job. And in my opinion, as a citizen watching, and what I heard, I think she does it very well. So I'm sitting here tonight and I'm hearing about there's no personal action back and forth. But what I'm wondering is Ms. Van Slooten qualified to do her job only when it does not involve a family member of Commissioner Martin? Or is it at all times? Because apparently this board has given her accolades bookending both times on this case. It's very disturbing to me to see such actions taking place, and then I'm hearing budget concerns and stuff taking place tonight. It's been no secret, many of us do not agree with the actions of this board. I'm not saying what you've done is illegal. I'm not making that implication by any means. I do think some of the stuff has been a little underhanded at times. It seems like a lot of these things take place at meetings like committee of the whole meetings, finance meetings, resolutions are passed where gifts are given all at that time. I'm not going to go into that tonight, but you know which one I'm talking about. But the citizens are here, as you can see tonight, for a finance meeting. We'll be watching this board. No longer will finance meetings and committee of the whole meetings will little things be slipping through. The public is going to watch, because the taxpayers, we're in big times. Money's tight. We see it. We feel the budget crunches everywhere. Anyone who owns a home, a business, who buys stuff, you feel the money. $100 here, $100 there. That's the difference in her doing her job and sending her stuff out, as she explained tonight, constitutionally required. These little amounts add up. And by Commissioner Martin interjecting herself, all the judges had to recuse themselves from this case, and we had to bring a judge in from another county. It may be minimal expense for meal per diems and travel, but every penny counts these days. And we need to take that into consideration when we use our jobs and when we're doing our stuff here tonight. Thank you.
Anyone else want to address the board tonight?
Mike Ronzek, Quintessence. When I was at the last board meeting, during commissioner's privilege, which is a good thing to have, our local news media has a bad habit of reporting off of that. The point I was trying to make, and this happens to involve Commissioner Martin again, was that when you go to do things and you're told by spending taxpayers' money, here's what you should do. We now lost our coordinator. I'm right at you. So I blame you for that. And I blame the board for not supporting our FICA coordinator. You're going to run into a lot of stuff. My previous employment, I had to deal with some of this. You guys aren't qualified. You're going to need a lot of help. So, part of what I wanna get to here, I hear money talk all the time, and we like to bring up insurance, we like to bring up wages. This is, daily news, all the kids that went and helped clean up Lake Nampa. I think it's phenomenal, the kids that, they're learning how to work. Until, elections, you're gonna hear from me on this one. We have a parks, manager who just started working again. You didn't touch this guy for all of 15, and now we're in the 16. And he's making 46 grand a year plus benefits. Before you start counting pencils out of someone's office that needs them, look at some real numbers. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to address the board? No. Okay, Commissioners' personal privilege, do you have anything, Bart?
Not at this moment, yes.
Okay, Chief.
Nothing. I'll just go look at everything. If our job is to look at both sides for everything, we'll go through it.
Well, I'm gonna respond to some of these charges, it's been a pretty personal attack on my level. I don't think a public official is worth very much, in my opinion, if you aren't willing to speak out on issues and defend your opinion. And I will always attempt to express my opinion on issues before the board and in my personal life as a citizen as well, especially when it involves the safety and well-being of children. You can bet that I will speak out in those matters always. You know, change is difficult and opposition is inevitable. But we do work together to try to manage this county within the budget, and this is what this board does, working together. We reach joint decisions. No one person establishes the direction the board takes. And if that's the insinuation, that's totally false. On all budget matters, no one person has that kind of power. We each have personal opinions, and we reach decisions by consensus, and these are joint decisions. You know, I will speak out. I will vocalize the positions I take. On this matter of FOIA and this meeting, it surprised me that the evaluation I wrote was a public document. I know better now, especially I went to my place of employment and talked to people in authority there, and they affirmed what was said at the meeting here. But I had no idea that the evaluation I wrote, and I would be happy to read it to all of you tonight, there was nothing untoward in it. It was an honest evaluation of our controller. But I was surprised that that was a public document. And I argued for my position that night. And if you get penalized for supporting your position and wanting to investigate it and consult other people, I think that's kind of false. I think that that's what you're expected to do, investigate and find out. It's been asserted that I left a meeting unexplained. You see on the agenda tonight, after Commissioner's personal opinion, what this board does is review all of these bills. And that probably takes an hour and a half. There are two parts to the finance meeting. There's this part that we're in right now, and then there's the bills. And I excused myself and went to the adjoining room between the two parts of the meeting. I didn't do that would be viewed so suspiciously, but apparently people are very much suspicious of anything that happens. I guess I will just say lastly, I will speak out. I will vocalize the positions I take. I will read, I will listen, I will consult, I will do my homework, and yes, I will speak out. And you can depend on that. I I think that's what the voters in my district, District 2, elected me for, and I will continue to do that.